So guys, what if Naruto was changes after Akeno dies movie? Akeno, I love you. Please go out with me. A blushing blonde man said as he slightly bowed toward the woman before him, not daring to look into her eyes. He had spiky blonde hair and beautiful azure eyes the color of the ocean. His name was Uzumaki Naruto, a third-year student of Kuo Academy. Standing opposite of him was a beautiful woman with black hair tied into a long ponytail and starling purple eyes. Her name was Himejima Akeno, also a third-year student of Kuo Academy. Naruto, Akeno stuttered, not sure how to react to her childhood friend's confession. A tinge of pink could be seen on her cheeks, and if any other person was present on the rooftop of Kuo Academy at that moment, they would have seen her fidgeting slightly. Her heart beat wildly in her chest and a small, happy smile could be seen on her blushing face. However, despite her affection for Naruto, Akeno couldn't give him an answer. Yes, it was because Akeno also harbored romantic feeling for Naruto that she couldn't answer his confession. The reason, while quite simple, was also quite complex. It was because Naruto was a human, an ordinary human. Himejima Akeno, known as one of the two great Oni-sama of Kuo Academy, was actually a devil serving Rias Gremory, between a human who could only live for 80 to 100 years at most and a devil whose lifespan could easily reach thousands. How could there be love? It was a troubling decision for Akeno. On one hand, she wanted Naruto to be happy and herself to be happy by saying yes, then hugged him dearly. However, doing so would drag Naruto into the supernatural world and exposing him to dangers. Akeno would never forget her origin and the reason her mother was killed. The memories of that day was still livid to her till present days. But that's not all. Now, let's take a step back and assume that they would be together happily and no one would come for them. How long would it last? Naruto was a normal human. He couldn't be with her forever. 10 years, 20 years, then 30 years from now, he would become older and weaker while she herself remained youthful forever. And once some more years passed, Naruto would die of old age while she continued on, still in her prime no matter how many decades had passed. By then, would Naruto still love her, a supernatural creature? By then, could she bear the pain of losing him like that? Numerous questions and scenario of their future passed through Akeno's head, bringing pain to her heart every time a happy scene met its end in one way or another. She had reached her conclusion. Gripping the hem of her skirt tightly, Akeno wiped a lone tear that had somehow leaked out and gazed at the bowing blonde before her with her determination steeled. And told him her answer. Naruto, swoosh swoosh. The sound of a blunt weapon cutting through air could be heard clearly in the courtyard of the Uzumaki household as a blonde man repeatedly swung his bakken with heavy force. This man was none other than Uzumaki Naruto, who had just returned home after his confession to the love of his life, Himejima Akeno. Obviously, he had failed and Naruto couldn't understand why. Akeno and him had known each other since childhood. Naruto's old house was next to the shrine where Akeno and her mother, Shuri, worked at, so it was natural for the two of them to be quite close. However, all good things came to an end after the day Himejima Shuri was murdered, and Akeno disappeared, because no corpse other than Shuri's was found, so it was suspected that Akeno had been kidnapped. Their beautiful childhood ended like that, and at that time, Uzumaki Naruto had cried, for the first time in a while. Time flew by, and then, 2 years ago, when he enrolled into Kuo Academy, he had met her again, and once more, Naruto had cried. However, that were tears of happiness. Naruto still remembered Akeno, and so did she him. Assigned to the same class, they hit it off quickly and became great friends like in their childhood. The two were always seen together in the academy, starting numerous rumors suspecting their relationship. But that was all they could become. Swoosh, great friends, Naruto thought as he swung the bakken in his hands once more. He had no target in mind and was just tiring himself out so that he could have an easy sleep and forgot Akeno's matter. Akeno. The name brought mixed feelings to his chest. Naruto had realized his feelings for her during their second year when they were attending a cooking class together. Since then, he had been thinking about the black hair Miko non-stop, and it had taken him 1 whole year to observe her and gather enough courage to confess earlier. And it had failed, unlike he thought. Maybe Akeno only thought of him as her friend. Swoosh snap. Let's us stay as friends, Naruto. Akeno's words rang in his mind again as Naruto swung his bakken down. And it snapped in half due to the heavy force. Letting out a tired sigh, the blonde threw his broken equipment away before turning around and walked into his house. First, he would take a cold shower to calm his mind, and then maybe he could try having some of the sake his godfather so loved, though he was still underage. Not that he cared about it anyway. Naruto thought the drink might help him somewhat. They have a saying, drinking help relieve stress after all. I refused him. Himejima Akeno said sadly to her best friend Rias Gremory and let out a tired sigh. The two were currently having some girls' talk before bed, and the topic was natural, Naruto's confession. Lying opposite of her, Rias Gremory also let out a sigh as she looked at Akeno concernedly. as the other of the two great Oni-sama. Rias was also a gorgeous woman on her own with crimson-red hair and greenish-blue eyes. "Why don't you invite him into our peerage, Akeno? I could take him in if you wanted to, I don't mind," Rias said, hoping that her friend would agree and be happy with her love life, though she only had a bishop, knight and a rook piece left after spending all her pawns on Hyodo Ise. She would happily give up one to ensure Akeno her happiness. However, the black-hair Miko shook her head. "You don't have to, Rias. I love Naruto and I want to be with him, but I can't be so selfish that I drag him into our world. I don't want he to know that I am a devil, and I don't want him to live a dangerous life." Akeno continued on sadly as she hid under the warm blanket. Soft sniffing noise could be heard as the black hair queen quietly weep. "Sniff Naruto. I am not the woman you need in your life. I am not worthy. So, let's stay as friends." It brought great pain to her heart every time Akeno remembered how Naruto had kept his head down as he walked away after hearing her answer. She could still clearly recall how he had been shivering and how unsteady his footstep had been as that time. "I am sorry, Naruto," Akeno muttered softly before quietly sniffing again. As much as she loved the blonde and hated herself for her action, Akeno still didn't want Naruto to be involved in the supernatural world, if possible. Akeno wished that she had been born into a normal family, having a normal, ordinary life as she grew up. Then she met Naruto, felt in love with him again, and together, they would live a happy, ordinary life. In the dead of the night, as Himejima Akeno silently weep herself to sleep and dreamt about her happy childhood days with Naruto, Rias Gremory hugged her for comfort and the night deepened. The two soundly slept, unaware of what was happening to their target of discussion. Sikvera Agaras was having a great day. In the morning, she had passed a hard political test for heir and heiress with flying colors, and in the evening, she had received a report from Olivian which said he had encountered an interesting individual in Tokyo that could be recruited into her peerage. Both news was enough to make a slight smile appeared on her usually stoic face, but to make her day even greater, fate had had her found the newest limited edition Dumgum model in Kuo. Walking through the bustling street of Kuo while holding a bag that contained her newest collection, Sikvera were making her way to an empty alley with a satisfied smile on her beautiful face. At the age of 18, the young heiress could be considered beautiful even by Devil's standard. With light blonde hair that reached her waist and red eyes, she wore glasses and was donning a white shirt and blue short skirt completed with black stockings. Her outfit, which made her look like a businesswoman, while revealed little, emphasized her tall and curvaceous figure greatly, so it was no wonder that her walking into an empty alley attracted many attention, including a certain blonde. But his reason was sure to be different from the group of 5 men who entered the alley before him. It was about 6 when Naruto came out of his shower and went to find a bottle of sake in the kitchen. The blonde frowned, however, when the opened cabinet showed that it was empty. Apparently, his godfather had drunk all of it during his last visit. Well, they were his after all, and he didn't really care about those drink in the past. Closing the cabinet and ran a hand through his wet, spiky blonde hair, Naruto figured he needed to take a walk outside. Maybe he could buy some sake on the way, or just immerse himself in the beauty of Kuo. So grabbing his cloak and wallet, the blonde closed the door. Be sure to lock it carefully and walked into the bustling street of Kuo. It was about 6 o'clock, the time when the army of men in suit returned home after a hard day of work, so naturally, the street was bustling. But even in the bustling street full of people going back and forth, Naruto couldn't help but look toward the entrance of a certain toy shop where a beautiful woman had just come out with a bag in her hand, and his heart skipped a beat. She is beautiful. It was quite a distance away, so Naruto could only see her light blonde hair and ruby-like red eyes under her glasses, but her face was really beautiful, and that satisfied smile on her pink lips only made her even more so. Unconsciously, Naruto's gaze followed her. Despite how much he loved Akeno, Naruto was still a man in his prime, so naturally, he was attracted by the blonde woman, who wasn't any worse than his love interest. But just as Naruto was about to shake his head and continued with his walk, he saw a group of 5 men enter the empty alley where the young woman had walked into. Maybe it was just a coincidence and they were just taking the same way home, but Naruto wasn't convinced. He saw himself as an easygoing person who could ignore most of the things happening around as long as it didn't affect him much, like how he didn't care about the perverted trio who seemed to have a grudge toward him, or how he just shrugged it off when he found said trio peeping the kendo club girls. Of course, if Akeno was involved, things would have been different. But no matter how easygoing he was, Naruto couldn't ignore what those 5 men were planning to do to the beautiful young woman in there, and so, the blonde split the crowd and entered the alley with a frown on his face. He might not have a weapon with him, but he knew some martial arts. Fighting all 5 adults sounded difficult, but at least, he could save the woman.
Sikvera raised an eyebrow when she sensed several human signatures following behind her. 5 of them stood closely to each other about 5 meters away from her while the last one, the strongest, was about 15 meters away. The satisfied smile on Sikvera's face disappeared and was replaced by a frown at this situation. The blonde woman let out a sigh and pushed up her glasses.
Obviously, this wasn't the first time something like this happened to her. Apparently, she was quite a beauty by human standard, rivaling their most beautiful model and actress. Some of them, the braver and more stupid, couldn't keep it in their pants after seeing her, so they resorted to stalking and raping. Needless to say, all of them failed, and Sikvera doubted this would be the last time she had to face such a situation. The young heiress shook her head, deciding to just ignore them till she reached the secret teleportation spell she had used to come here. There, she would erase their memory and let them be on their way while she returned to her home. None of them would remember what had happened, and this unpleasant memory wouldn't make her day any worse in the end. Arg! A sharp cry rang out in the empty alley, made Sikvera stop in her step and raised an eyebrow. From her sensor, it seemed that the 6th man had rendezvoused with his 5 other comrades, as they were now standing in the same location now. Ah! Another pain-filled cry rang out and the young heiress turned back. After running a bit to gain some momentum, Naruto jumped into the air and delivered a devastating dropkick to the thug nearest to him, Thug A, sending him flying forward, tackling Thug B and fell down with him. Landing on his feet, the blonde quickly twisted his body and delivered a beautiful 360 degrees roundhouse kick to Thug C, hitting him square on the face. Apparently, the cry of the 3 downed thugs had alerted their comrades, since the other 2 were rushing at him with crazed face and knife in their hands, not one to flinch back. However, Naruto adopted a basic defensive stance and sidestepped the attack of Thug D before kicking Thug S's wrist, knocking the knife out of his hand. Arg! Thug E cried out as he grabbed his right wrist in pain, but before he could do anything, the blonde rushed toward him and grabbed his arm. Then, with his back to the thug's chest, Naruto silently let out a cry as he threw Thug E at Thug D, who was rushing at him again. With large cry of pain, the 2 thugs collided and fell down. Taking the knife out of Thug D's hand, Naruto pointed it toward the 3 downed thugs who were getting up and glared at them. Disappear. The thugs shuddered and ran out of the alley, not even stopping to pick up their dropped wallet, phone and knife. Throwing the knife away, Naruto walked toward the young woman who had been surprisingly watching the fight without running away and offered her a handshake, to which the woman accepted. I am Uzumaki Naruto. Are you hurt somewhere? Sikvera Agaras. I am fine, thanks to your timely assistance. Thank you, Sikvera said before giving Naruto a curtsy. Say, are you a martial artist by chance? Martial artist is too much, I just know how to defend myself, the blonde answered while scratching the back of his head. Apparently, being the son of a woman who was the only child of a Yakuza boss and a man who formerly served in the JSDF helped a lot. They taught him how to fight and survive. That godfather of him too, aside from being a super pervert, was actually a master martial artist. I see. Once again, allow me to thank you for your intervention. To show my gratitude, I will give you this leaflet which can make your wish real once, Sikvera said before taking a leaflet with the Agaras clan's sign on it and give it to Naruto. If any wish is possible, then I wish for I and Akeno to be together forever. The blonde took the leaflet and said with a serene smile on his face. Seeing such a beautiful smile, the young heiress couldn't help but be stunned by it for a moment, but not one to lose her composure. She coughed into her hand and displayed a calm and professional face again as she confirmed her customer's wish. Did you mean charming her into loving you? No. How could I wish for such a thing? That's not how love work, and I would never force Akeno to be with me. You said a wish, so I just wish it to happen, Naruto said with a frown on his face before that frown turned into a depressed expression as he remembered Akeno's matter again. Great, now he really needs some of those sake. Then you may keep the leaflet and wish for another thing whenever you want. I'll be off then, Sikvera said with a smile on her face before resuming her journey home. The blonde's hasty but honest answer rang in her mind as she wished for her future lover to be a man like him, strong, handsome, righteousness, and most importantly, loyal. It sounded difficult, like a knight out of a fantasy tale, but as the heiress of the Agaras clan, Sikvera had both the looks and conditions to set a bar that high. Beside, hard wasn't impossible. Sikvera believed that as long as she kept looking, she would find a man like that somewhere one day. Seeing the young woman went on her way, Naruto also shrugged and walked out of the alley to find some sake and food. He hadn't eaten anything since lunch. It was about 10 when Naruto walked home with a flushed face after having some sake in a random shop. Maybe his tall height helped, but the owner didn't even ask about his age and just handed him whatever sake he needed. The air was somewhat cold and the night was dead silent. The once bustling street had become empty, not a single live could be seen, though it was nearing 0 hour. Kuo was never this quiet even deep into the night. At this thought, Naruto stopped his step and looked around. The LEDs were on but the shops were all closed and not a single noise could be heard in the surrounding. Though somewhat dizzy from having some sake in his systems, the blonde was still sharp and his senses of danger were tingling like something was going to happen, soon. Suddenly, Naruto hit the ground with his arms first, barely avoiding an earth spike flying where his head once was, not even caring about how bruised his arms were. Naruto looked toward where the earth spike had flown off and saw a monster. It was likely a male monster considering its muscular upper body covering in beast fur. It also had a distortedly ugly lion head and its lower body was that of a horse. It had 4 beast arms, each holding a different weapon however. One was bare. It wasn't that hard to realize that the earth spike earlier was that hand's weapon. Naruto gulped loudly. Fear could be seen in his azure eyes as he looked at the monster he had never seen before, but rather than being frozen in fear and waited for his death, the blonde kicked off and ran away. The half-lion, half-horse roared angrily as it threw another weapon toward the blonde, this time a great sword made out of rock which Naruto easily dodged. Seeing the blonde struggled, the monster let out another loud roar and chased after him with its 4 legs. Thump thump, the sound of its hoof hitting the ground made Naruto crazy as he used every last bit of strength he had trying to outrun the 4-legged monster. However, his effort was soon proven to be futile as the monster caught up quickly and swung its oversized earth club at him. Naruto dodged it by hitting the ground again and ran toward the opposite direction, trying to lengthen the distance between him and the monster. But he could only run a few meters before he was sent flying into the wall of a nearby house, hit by the oversized club of the ugly monster. It was too fast for an ordinary human like him. Arg! Naruto cried out in pain as he fell to the ground. The intense pain he was feeling throughout his entire body told Naruto that he had suffered quite a heavy injury. Most of his ribs must have been broken due to the impact with the wall and it seemed that his spine had been snapped in half too. Laughing soundlessly with a bitter expression on his face, Naruto could only muster up all the strength left in his body to give the incoming monster a vicious glare, wishing that it would die under his eyes. As his bloody vision slowly faded away, Naruto saw the monster running toward him with its club raised high, a mocking expression on its face and disdainful in its eyes as it came to deliver the final blow. However, there was no fear on the blonde's face as he ruthlessly glared at the monster with all the hate and strength he could muster. A shining circle appeared right in front of him and out of it came the familiar figure of Sekvara Agaras who he had just met in the evening. Play background music. Styx Helix, Myth and Roid, A.N. I think Styx Helix fits this scene very much. If this got animated, that is. Well, this part is quite long and you may need to replay the music, but it's okay, I guess. Perfect. Sekvara exclaimed as she made some tiny adjustments to her private gum collection in her bedroom. It was near midnight so the young heiress was about to call it a great day and had a nice slept. The day had been awesome so far, and nothing would make it more complete than a good sleep to prepare for the day after, Sekvara thought to herself and began undressing. Zip. The young heiress began by unzipping her short skirt and slid it off, revealing milky white skin that was usually unseen by the world and a pair of perfectly long legs with thick thighs but not even the least bit of useless fats in them. Just as she was about to unbutton her shirt however, Sekvara felt a tugging sensation at the back of her head and immediately wore her skirt again. She could feel it. The interesting blonde she met in the evening was calling for her, and as if his life depended on it, the wish was very strong. As Sekvara was wondering what could have happened to him with a serious expression, she disappeared into the Agaras clan's teleportation circle. What greeted the young heiress when she appeared in the human world for the second time in the day wasn't the most pleasant thing however. Swoosh bang, it was a club to the face. Barrier. It was an instantaneous reaction that only those of experiences could have. Sekvara had immediately erected a solid barrier around herself to repel any incoming attack for a brief period of time right after seeing the monster. From the moment of her appearance to the moment the club was about to hit her face, only 1 second had passed. If Sekvara was any slower, she would have suffered quite an injury being hit by that club. The solid, transparent barrier cracked under the pressure but its purpose was fulfilled, giving Sekvara enough time to assess the situation. In front of her was an ugly stray devil and behind her was a dying Uzumaki Naruto. It's not that hard to tell what had happened for the blonde to call her here, pushing her glasses up, an action which helped Sekvara calm her mind down somewhat. The young heiress glared at the stray with her crimson red eyes, which seemed to glow even in the dark. Slow, she pointed her palm toward the stray and muttered, invisible and soundless. A wave of magic power was released upon the stray and entered its body. Immediately, the ugly monster stopped dead in its track, or to be more precise, it had been slowed down to the point of almost stopping. Fireball, Sekvara exclaimed and from her still outstretched palm, a magic circle with a diameter of 2 meters appeared. From there, numerous fireballs flew out, all hitting the stray without fail. blowing it into bits and pieces after several seconds. With the ugly monster gone, Sikvera crouched down next to Naruto and placed a hand on his neck, checking his pulse. Weak. It was a very weak pulse, but Sikvera could tell that the blonde was still alive even after suffering such terrible injuries. Such strong life force and spirit for a human. The young heiress couldn't help but be impressed by the blonde's willpower. In the face of death, not only did he not give up, but he had also fought back with all his power. The blonde was slowly closing his eyes and his face was also softening at the moment. But Sikvera would never forget that just a moment ago, she had shivered under his vicious glare even though it wasn't directed at her. Ankh, you. The young heiress kept quieted, waiting to see if the interesting blonde had something else to say, but nothing happened for a moment before a bitter smile appeared on Naruto's face as he continued. You have beautiful, red, eyes, there, he said, his dull azure eyes looking straight into her red ruby orbs before his breathing stilled completely. For a moment, Sikvera was at a loss for word. Instead of wishing, saying that he wanted to live a little more, Naruto had given her an unrelated compliment before going on his way and died just like that. Such irresponsibility. Seems like I need to fix that bad trait of your, Uzumaki Naruto. Pushing her glasses up, Sikvera thought with a slightly flushed face as she summoned a folded chessboard from her dimensional pocket. From there the young heiress picked out a red, glowing rook piece and placed it on Naruto's chest. An interesting human who are strong in both body and soul. Also know martial arts and have an unshakable heart. I may have exasperated things a little, but I really believe that you would become an outstanding warrior in the future. So I am not letting you die a meaningless death like this. A magic circle bearing the symbol of Agaras appeared where the blonde was lying and then, the glowing rook piece slowly sunk into Naruto's chest. As Sikvera continued chanting, the magic circle kept getting brighter and brighter as it gathered a huge amount of magic power from the surrounding. Rise, Uzumaki Naruto, and become my servant, serve me, Sikvera Agaras, as my new rook. The young heiress finished the ritual with a cry and the sea of magic power rushed into Naruto's body. The magic circle disappeared and Sikvera crouched down to check on her new rook. He had been revived. Most of his wounds had been healed thanks to the surge of magic power and the vitality of the devil race. However, he was exhausted and would need several days of rest to fully recover. I don't know where his house is, Sikvera muttered before shaking her head and prepared to teleport the both of them back to her house. The Agaras clan's mansion back in the underworld. Was it that big of a deal that Sikvera decided to bring Naruto home with her the first day they met? That question ran through the young heiress' head, but she paid it no mind and continued on with what she was doing. Naruto had become her rook, which meant he had become a part of her family, so him coming to her house to rest was no big deal. Beside, her rook needed rest, so Sikvera would give him the best environment in her power to do so. Naruto opened his eyes to see an unfamiliar and luxurious ceiling. Blinking several times to get rid of the sleepiness, the blonde tried to sit up, but he winced in pain a moment later and fell into the soft bed again. The comfortable softness caught him off guard. Clearly it wasn't his bed, but Naruto paid it no mind as he held his head in pain. They were returning to him, pictures and memories of the incident last night. The ugly lion horse monster had hit him in the back with its club, sending him into a wall, and then, he died? No, something else has happened. Someone has appeared. Did that person save me? Naruto thought, but no matter how much he racked his brain, he couldn't come up with an answer. That person's image was so vague he couldn't even figure out their gender. He just remembered that someone had appeared, and since he was alive, it meant they had saved him. You are awake, Naruto-sama. Please wash your face as I prepare your breakfast. Naruto looked to his right and saw a maid politely bowed to him before she walked out of the room. With the only person he could ask went away and his body too hurt to move, Naruto let out a sigh and reached out for the bucket of water the maid had left. Not long after Naruto finished his morning routine, the maid came back with a tray in her hands. Your breakfast, Naruto-sama, she said, putting the tray in front of Naruto, and dutifully stepped back. Though the breakfast offered to him was simple and somewhat ordinary, only some breads, a big omelette and a cup of cappuccino, but the delicious aroma and exquisite decorations made the blonde drool slightly. Deciding to think about his confusing situation later, Naruto reached out for a bread. Delicious. The blonde thought before he began eating with gusto, devouring the food in just a few minutes. Though the breakfast looked simple and ordinary, it was made using the finest materials and cooked perfectly, bringing out the best taste. Naruto had little doubt that the chef who made his breakfast was a 5-star chef. Can I ask what kind ingredients are used to make this breakfast? Naruto gently asked the maid after finishing his breakfast. As someone who had lived alone for quite some time, the blonde knew how to cook and enjoyed making himself a delicious meal. Though he wanted to ask about his situation first, the food were just so delicious he couldn't ignore voicing his question. The breads are made by using the finest wheats cultivated by the Citri in their territory with modern technologies and suitable weather controlled all around the year, while the omelette are made from flamed chicken's eggs imported from Phoenix territory, which was famous for its poultry farming. Naruto was at a loss for word after hearing the maid's smooth answer. Of course her professional attitude contributed, but the blonde was more perplexed by the terms used by the maid, cultivated by the Citri. Weather controlled all around the year? Flamed chicken? Phoenix? Naruto-sama, do you have any other questions? Where, is this place? With his interest in the food's recipes somewhat diminished, the blonde finally asked the question he had been wondering about since waking up. His tone was lower than when he asked about the food, and the stoic expression on his face indicated that he was serious. The Agares clan main mansion, the house of Agares' direct descendants and their servants, the maid answered without missing a beat, not the least bit intimidated by the blonde. Agares. That name reminded Naruto of something, or rather someone. Sekvara Agares was her name if he remembered correctly. The blonde had met her and saved her from some thugs that evening, and in return, she had given him a strange leaflet and told him to wish upon it. Now that he remembered the beautiful young woman, it seemed that the one to appear at his final moments was her? How could she be there, and how could she get him away from that monster? Do you happen to know a person named Sekvara Agares? Sekvara Agares is the name of our young lady who is the heiress to the Agares clan. Young lady Sekvara is currently in her private study. If you want to have a meeting with her, you will have to wait till lunch when she comes out to eat. The maid dutifully answered, and Naruto nodded. He couldn't move at the moment anyway, so waiting for 2 to 3 hours was no big deal to him, but there was something else that couldn't wait though. Can you guide me to the bathroom? Naruto asked with an embarrassed expression on his face, because he couldn't move his legs. The blonde hadn't relieved himself in the morning yet, so it was about to burst after such a long time. Without batting an eyelash, the maid dutifully nodded before gently carrying Naruto out of the room, in bridal style. Uzumaki Naruto. Where is Uzumaki Naruto? A bald teacher asked before writing something on the paper he was holding when the class kept silent. Now let's begin with today's class. Sitting at the back of the class, Hamejima Akeno gazed sadly at the empty seat next to her as images of Uzumaki Naruto crossed her mind. I hope Naruto-kun is alright, the black-hair Miko thought before trying to focus on what the teacher was saying, but failed. The conversation she had with Naruto that day kept replaying in her head, and she couldn't forget his hurt expression after she rejected him. If the blonde had come to school, sitting next to her, even if he didn't even look at her, then Akeno wouldn't be this anxious. She would be fine with it even if Naruto cursed her. She knew she deserved it for rejecting his sincere feelings without telling why. But he wasn't showing up, and that made Akeno worry. As his childhood friend, she knew the blonde very well. He was someone who treasured his loved ones deeply and would do anything in his power for them. He was such a kind and passionate person that anyone who had befriended him couldn't help but be awed by him. His sincere feelings and his great personality were also what made Akeno fall in love with Naruto in the first place. If the blonde wasn't there for her in the past, her childhood would have been filled with tragedy and sad memories. Kushina-san and Minato-san are no longer in this world. Thinking about her childhood caused Akeno to think about Naruto's parents. During her time in the underworld, Minato and Kushina had passed away under unknown circumstance, leaving the blonde with his godfather who couldn't be with him at all times due to his work. As someone who had also suffered the same pain, Akeno knew very well what Naruto had been through and also knew what had changed within the blonde after that incident. Because Naruto had felt the pain of losing his loved peoples, his love and protectiveness toward them had become even stronger, turning it into a kind of obsession. Akeno wouldn't forget his happy smile and the tears he cried that day when they met each other again after years apart. He cared and loved his important ones so much it scared Akeno to think about what he would do when his feelings were rejected. What if I had hurt him too badly? Akeno thought, and for a moment, her purple eyes shook in horror. Unable to control herself any longer, the black-hair Miko ran out of the classroom, ignoring the teacher's call and her classmates' wondering eyes. If something happened to you or you hurt yourself because of me, Naruto-kun, I will never forgive myself. Akeno though determinedly and gritted her teeth as she ran along the shortest path that led to where she knew he blonde lived. Young lady, your coffee, good, taking the cup of espresso offered to her. Sekvara relaxed into her chair and let out a content sigh. As the clan heiress, ever since she was 12, Sekvara had been assigned with running a small part of the territory by herself as practice, making her day extremely busy. Every day, at least 4 hours must be spent to process the work of a lord, 8 hours to study and 4 hours to improve her power. Assumed that she took 6 hours to sleep each day, Sekvara only had 2 hours of free time left. So when the young heiress finished her work early and looked at the small clock sitting on her desk, she rejoiced when knowing that she had 1 more hour of free time. Taking a sip of espresso, Sikvera looked at the maid and asked. How is Uzumaki Naruto? Naturally, the maid she asked was also the maid who had served Naruto his breakfast. Standing at the height of 164 meters, she was a beautiful woman with black hair tied into a ponytail and cold, emotionless black eyes. Her skin was snow white, which was further highlighted by her black and white maid outfit. Like Sikvera, her master, she exuded an air of elegance and seriousness. He has woken up, but due to his heavy injuries, he was unable to move for now, though I have secretly sped up his recovery with skin contact. I suspect that it would take another 3 days for him to completely recover, the maid answered dutifully without missing a beat. Did he ask about me? Yes, he did. Should I bring him here, young lady? Sikvera nodded and the maid walked out of the room without making a sound. It wasn't even 5 minutes later that a knock was heard and the black hair maid walked in, this time with Naruto in her arms, bridal style. Though the room was silent, the blonde blushed bright red when he saw Sikvera's lips twitching. The young heiress wasn't laughing, but she was definitely holding back. The black hair maid put Naruto on a chair opposite Sikvera and walked out of the room. So, where are we exactly? I noticed that the sky is purple, the blonde asked after overcoming his embarrassing moments. When he woke up earlier, because of the confusion he was feeling, he hadn't thought much about it, but after returning from his important business, Naruto had looked out the window in his boredom and saw a stunning sight. The usual clear blue sky was replaced by a purple one that had 2 moons in it. To be honest, it was beautiful and Naruto felt at ease looking at such a sky, but he couldn't help feeling anxious. After all, he was in an unfamiliar mansion, located in a strange place that might not even existed on Earth. We are in the underworld, Sikvera, still relaxed in her chair, answered with a stoic face and took sip of her espresso. Hearing her answer, Naruto's eyes slightly widened before he sighed and fell into his chair too. So I died? Sikvera nodded. You and that maid too. At that, the young heiress stopped sipping her coffee and placed it on the desk. She leaned forward, adopting a serious sitting posture as she looked straight into Naruto's eyes with her ruby-red orbs. Seeing the beautiful heiress turn serious, Naruto also straightened his back. Naruto, tell me how much you know about devil, angel and fallen angel. While Sikvera Agaras was telling her new rook the truth of the world in the process of him turning into a low-class devil, in Kuo, Rias Gremory's peerage was having a serious meeting. You came to his house but couldn't find him? Rias Gremory asked while raising an eyebrow. Standing opposite her was Himejima Akeno, whose eyes were red from crying earlier. After promptly running out of her class to search for Naruto, the black hair Miko had returned to the occult research club room, looking lost and disheveled, surprising her friends. Right. I fear that something has happened to him, Akeno said, her voice shaking as if she could collapse and cries at any moment. Suddenly, scenes of Naruto getting hurt or committing suicide ran through Akeno's mind and her body shook greatly. The black hair Miko bit her lower lip as an effort to calm herself down and took in a deep breath. A small trail of blood flowed down from Akeno's lips and the atmosphere became tenser. Naruto is fine, he must be. She knew Naruto, he was a strong and intelligent man. Though he was hurt by her rejection, the blonde wouldn't be so stupid that he committed suicide to get rid of the pain. Naruto getting hurt by other was also impossible too. He had been trained by his parents since a young age and was a martial artist master himself too. I will contact Sona and we will search for him together. For you, Akeno, I will flip Kuo upside down to find Uzumaki Naruto, Rias said with a reassuring smile before hugging the shaking queen into her arms. Sitting on a red couch, Kiba, a handsome man with blonde hair, blue eyes and Kaneko, a cute girl with short white hair, hazel eyes nodded at each other with determined eyes before walking out of the room. He must be taking a break somewhere to relax himself. Don't worry, Akeno, it will be fine, the redhead said as she patted Akeno's back to comfort her and silently vowed to find Naruto at all cost. When Akeno told her that she had rejected Naruto's confession, Rias hadn't thought much about it even though the black hair Miko had cried, but it seemed that Akeno loved Naruto more deeply and sincerely than she herself had realized. Though she would definitely disagree with her, Rias was determined to take Naruto in so that Akeno's happiness could be ensured. So I am a devil now? Naruto asked before sipping his cappuccino which the black hair maid had given him sometime during his talk with Sikvera. Though the talk was long, the contents were informative and much needed for someone who had just entered the supernatural world like him. Beside, Sikvera was a good listener and talker. Speaking with her was interesting. A newly reincarnated devil of the lowest rank in the underworld, the young heiress added, and a frown appeared on Naruto's face. While I am fine with just being alive for a second time, being so weak would only result in trouble. Beside, I need power to protect my important ones, the blonde quietly said as images of the lion-faced monster crossed his mind. It was because he was weak that he had been killed. but now that he had become a devil with various means to get stronger, the blonde was determined to learn and grow. Only with power could he protect himself and the people he cared about, like Akeno and Jiraiya, his godfather. Good thinking. It's survival of the fittest in this supernatural world, so work hard to improve your rank and power, for you, for the peerage and for me too, Sikvera said strictly with a serious look on her face, as someone who would lead the Agares clan in the future. A position that was only below the four Satans, Sikvera needed to have a strong peerage to back her up. That was why she liked Naruto's attitude of wanting to become stronger and encouraged him. Right, peerage, I am bound to you as your servant now, aren't I? Naruto asked while scratching the back of his head. Servant is only the official term used to call reincarnated devil under a king. How to treat them is another matter that completely depend on the king. For me, I see my peerage as comrades, allies and friends. This is something that you must see and decide for yourself. I am speaking good things about myself won't carry much weight, Sikvera answered with a stoic face before taking off her glasses to clean it. Hearing no response from Naruto after a while, the young heiress looked up only to see said blonde looking at her with stunned look on his face. What's wrong? No, nothing, I just thought you look really beautiful with your glasses off, Naruto said, his voice getting lower and lower the more he talked and a blush could be seen on his face. The room fell into silence and the young heiress abruptly stopped cleaning her glasses at the unexpected compliment. You speak as if I am not beautiful as I am now, Sikvera putted her glasses on and said with a straight face, but if one looked closely, a faint tinge of pink could be seen on her cheeks. No, it's not what I meant, I know, I am just joking. Sikvera stopped the blonde from embarrassing himself with a slight smile on her face, seeing the young heiress' beautiful smile for first time ever since meeting her. Naruto also smiled and relaxed in his chair. The matter of peerage and servant didn't seem that important to him anymore. For Naruto, he had died and Sikvera had given him, literally, a new life, so him serving her to repay her grace was kinda normal. They said nothing was free in the world after all. He couldn't expect a devil to save him and not ask for anything in return. Then, Your Majesty, your orders. Having a sudden urge to tease his new king, Naruto asked loudly while kneeling on one knee and secretly took a glance at Sikvera. A smile appeared on Naruto's lip when he saw the young heiress coughed into her hand, but that was all. Seems like it will take more than that to make her smile again, the blonde thought, a little disappointed that he couldn't see Sikvera's beautiful smile. Sit, Naruto, and don't do that again. Seeing Naruto complied and returned to his seat, the young heiress nodded before she continued. Since you are still recovering from your injuries, we will do nothing for now, but after you are completely healed, we will begin a 1-month course training that teach you how to use your new devil's power, including magic. After that I will give you your first mission. So I will be staying in the underworld for 1 month. Seeing Sikvera nodded, Naruto frowned slightly as Akeno's silhouette appeared in his mind, but then, the blonde shook his head with a sad look on his face. Now that he had become a devil, someone like him couldn't be with Akeno anymore, so resolving himself, Naruto nodded and looked at his king with determined eyes. Then I will prepare to withdraw you from Kuo Academy. Don't worry it and just focus on recovering yourself and adapting to your new body. Seeing the blonde nodded again, Sikvera looked at him with appreciating eyes before she signaled for the black hair maid to carry Naruto back to his room. With Naruto's matters finished, the young heiress looked at her clock again to see that it was about lunch, so deciding to speed up her schedule, Sikvera called another maid to bring her some food. Uzumaki Naruto shouted and pushed himself up from his handstand position. 3 days had passed and the blonde had completely recovered from his injuries, as ordered by Sikvera and convinced, forced, by the black hair maid. Naruto had done nothing during the duration saved for reading books, so it was natural that the blonde wanted to test his new power the moment he woke up the following day. As Sikvera had said, his new devil status had greatly improved his strength. Previously, Naruto could only do 50 handstand push-up, but after turning into a devil, he could do 200, and it wasn't even that hard. As a rook, his physical strength had been greatly improved, making the task not that difficult anymore, but it seemed that he needed to work on his stamina. While the rook piece offered physical strength enough to break tree and endurance that could withstand bullet, it offered little improvement on stamina. After 200 handstand push-ups, Naruto's body was soaked in sweats and he was dead tired, but his arms and stomach weren't that sore. So, stamina, it is then, the blonde said, somewhat out of breath, and poured a bottle of water on the top of his head to cool him down. Standing on the sideline, watching his training progress was none other than the black hair maid named Narberyl Gamma. Calmly, she walked toward Naruto and handed him a towel which the blonde accepted with a thank and began wiping his sweat-soaked body. Working on your physical strength and stamina is good for a rook. But you need to work on magic too. While it's true that you can punch a bishop or knight into unconsciousness with just one punch, it's meaningless if you can't hit them. Narberl said calmly before she snapped her finger. In a flash, her normal black and white maid outfit had been slightly changed into a form more suited for battle. A white breastplate appeared on her top, protecting her chest, and midsection white her skirt was covered by gold and silver scales. When fighting against a rook, a knight with enhanced agility and a good sense of battle can easily avoid your attack while sapping your strength away. The easiest method to handle such a situation is casting haste on yourself or slow on your opponent. As an Agares clan member, you have access to time magic, you just have to practice it. Though Naruto was amazed by Narberl's new appearance, he listened intently without missing a word. Advices from the experienced were extremely helpful, especially for a beginner like himself. Such a method won't work on queen or bishop, though, as they are more adept in magic and can easily dispel or repel your magic. Moreover, unlike a knight, they hit you from afar and have various methods to prevent you from approaching, the battle maid said before pointing one finger at Naruto, who looked at her seriously and mentally prepared himself for whatever that was coming. His eyes were wide open and full of concentration, as if he was burning the entire process into his brain. Lightning. Blue thunder danced on Narberl's finger before it shot toward Naruto's chest. A skidding sound was heard and the blonde was pushed back by a meter. The arms he used to protect his chest now had a burnt mark on them. For your information, that is the most basic spell of thunder, attributed magic caster. For someone of my level, pushing you to the edge of this training field, or frying you right on the spot isn't impossible. Dragon lightning. The battle maid continued before pointing a palm toward the sky. Blue lightning danced across her body before a writhing dragon made from lightning shot toward the purple sky above. Naruto looked at the dragon-shaped lightning in awe before gulping in slight fear. The blonde had little doubt that he would be roasted if he took that magic head-on. To fight against a bishop, you will need to work on your agility to avoid their magic and quickly close the distance between you and them. Magic resistance is also needed to survive through wide-range magic. Other method is to work on your magic power and ability. A veteran magic caster is able to use various protection magic like invisibility, teleportation, dimensional move, and so on, so having magic like magic detection, silence, is recommended. Narberl explained before demonstrating said abilities herself to better show Naruto what an accomplished magic caster was able to do. From the beginning to the end, the blonde never took his eyes off Narberl's elegant and delicate form as she casted one magic to another, intending to burn the lesson she was giving him into his memory. The process took about half an hour until the battle maid stopped and used a handkerchief to clean her face. With a bright smile on his face, Naruto handed Narberl a bottle of water he picked up from the sideline, which the maid gracefully accepted. That was awesome. I didn't know you were so strong. As a battle maid of the Agares clan and young lady Sikvera's bishop, I must be capable of this much, Narberl calmly said. A slight satisfied and proud smile could be seen on her face. With a snap of her finger, the battle maid made her outfit return to its usual appearance and looked at Naruto strictly. As you are my comrade in future battles, I can't let you drag the peerage and young lady down by being a weakling. So I have decided that I will teach you magic in my spare time. As for the lessons fee, I will collect it later when I think of something, Narberl said, and toward her offer. Naruto nodded excitedly. Having seen the battle maid performing the various uses of magic, the blonde was interested in learning the art himself and utilized it in battle. Seeing Naruto's excited nod, Narberl looked at him with approving eyes before telling him the most basic things a devil needed to learn magic. Graphia-chan. I have fallen in love with you the moment I first met you during the Civil War. Marry me. A handsome man with crimson hair and blue-green eyes shouted passionately as he proposed to a maid standing before him. With a little bit of magic, the man made the surrounding darken and a spotlight shone down on them before a romantic song began playing in the background. Gazing at the maid lovingly, the man slowly opened the small box in his hands, revealing a golden ring embedded with several brightly shining diamonds. If any other woman was proposed in a romantic way like that by such a handsome man, they would probably be stunned and accepted the proposal happily. But unfortunately for the crimson hair man, the woman he proposed to wasn't any other ordinary woman. Letting out a tired sigh, the silver hair maid released a portion of her magic power to return the office its usual appearance before glancing at the crimson hair man. This is the 69,696th time you proposed to me, Searzek-sama. Do you ever get tired of doing this? The maid with ruby-red eyes named Graphia calmly said, and the crimson hair man stood up. Though his face showed that he was sad, the man who had experienced being rejected 69,696 times quickly recovered and smiled gently at the silver hair maid. Since the time limit is quickly approaching, I figure I need to make the best out of it. I won't stop you from trying, Searzek-sama, but my answer won't change. You aren't the type of man I am looking for to be my partner. This time, it was the crimson hair man who let out a tired sigh after hearing Graphia's answer. Stubborn, determined, never giving up, cold and strict, They were the words that could be used to describe Graphia Lucifuge, the last known member of the once prestige Lucifuge clan who served the original Lucifer. 200 years ago, a civil war had broken out in the underworld between the new Satan faction who waned to preserve peace and the old Satan faction who wanted to continue warring against the Angel faction and the Fallen Angels faction. Graphia and her clan were part of the old faction before the Silver Hair Maid betrayed them and turned to the new faction, giving away important, strategic info that helped them achieve victory. However, even though Graphia had contributed a huge part to their victory, no reward was given and the last Lucifuge was instead shunned by a large majority. While it was confusing and unreasonable, when looking at the devil's characteristics, the reasons for Graphia's situation were quite simple. Devils were usually long-lived and had low birth rate, so their society was full of traditionalists and closed-mind devils living from ancient time when rules were extremely strict. The devil race operated on a hierarchy system with the 4 Satans holding absolute power and then the 72 pillars and finally the extra devil serving them. To them, a devil of lower class must have absolute loyalty toward devil of higher rank, and even the slightest act of disobedience would be met with punishment. As such, Graphia's action of betraying her own clan and lord, the Lucifer clan, was seen as disgusting and unacceptable even if it was for the better of the whole devil race in the end. If Ajuka, Seraphal, Falbium and Sirzex himself hadn't stood out for her, using their new status as the 4 great Satans to vouch for her, Graphia would have been executed or banished long ago. To outsiders, Graphia was a traitor to her clan and lord, but as someone who had befriended the Silver Hair Maid for almost 200 years, Sirzex knew the real story behind her action and he couldn't help respecting her for it. That dream, it will cost you your happiness in the future, Graphia-chan, the Crimson Hair Man said softly, a sad look on his face as he gazed at Graphia's cold, yet elegant expression. The Silver Hair Maid took a step back to avoid Sirzek's hand which was about to caress her cheek and politely bowed to him. My happiness is the least of your concern, Lucifer-sama, as long as I can achieve my dream. No, my goal. I have no need for personal happiness, Graphia exclaimed, a bit loudly before she excused herself out of the office. Left standing alone in his own office, Sirzek's Lucifer gazed sadly at the door before looking out the window. If there are someone out there who can melt Graphia's frozen heart, please appear soon. The current Lucifer, one of the most powerful figure in the underworld, muttered while looking at the busy street of capital Lilith from his office's window, his mountain of paperwork laid forgotten on his table. Not doing any better than her older brother, Rias Gremory let out an exhausted sigh after she finished listening to the reports given by her familiars. It had been 4 days since the search started and the location of Uzumaki Naruto was still unknown to them. Akeno, her queen, wasn't even coming to the clubroom these days. The black hair Miko was running all over Kuo in search for her crush. If this situation continued, Akeno would have no motivation to improve herself and would be, in no way, readied for the upcoming battle against Riser Phoenix. Rias sighed tiredly and sprawled herself on the top of her desk. This is tiring. Knowing Riser's selfish personality and lust toward her, Rias estimated that she only had about 2 months left before that guy came knocking on her door. At that time, she would bet it all on a rating game and fought for her freedom. But if Akeno, her strongest ally, couldn't exert all her power, how could she win? Though Rias had recently recruited the legendary Sakuryute and a nun with twilight healing, those two were just reincarnated. They needed time to grow, time that she didn't have. I hate you, Uzumaki Naruto. Should we extend our search to the neighboring areas, bucko? Rias Knight, Kiba, asked with a concerned look on his face, though not saying any word and her face blank. Kaneko, who was sitting on a couch, also looked at Rias, awaiting her orders, letting another deep sigh, something she seemed to do a lot lately. The redhead smiled when she saw the concerned look on her peerage's face before shaking her head. We should look around Kuo properly one more time before doing that. Look around the airports and seaports to see if Naruto has gotten out of Kuo. Kiba, Kaneko, ask Akeno for something from Naruto and try to sense him, Rias ordered and stood up, intending to have a shower to calm herself down before continuing the search. However, just when she was about to open the door to her shower, a familiar voice said in her head and the content made Rias' eyes widen in both surprise and joy. I will come immediately, the redhead all but shouted before a magic circle bearing the symbol of Gremory appeared in the air. It was a telepathy spell and its target was none other than her best friend, Hamejima Akeno. Akeno, we have found Naruto, walking through the street of Kuo slowly while looking out for a certain someone. Hamejima Akeno suddenly stopped when her eyes landed on the shrine in the distance. It was where she lived in Kuo, an abandoned shrine with little to no visitor throughout the year, but the black hair Miko didn't really care about that. The reason she wanted to stay in a shrine was because in the past, she and her mother had also lived in a shrine before that incident happened. I also met Naruto at the shrine. Akeno thought sadly as memories of the day she and the blonde met each other played out in her mind, still livid and clear as if it had just happened. Humming an unknown song with an innocent expression on her face, little Akeno, who had just turned 8, looked at the beautiful blue sky above as she enjoyed having her hair combed by her mother. Sitting behind Akeno, gently combing her daughter's lustrous black hair, was none other than Himejima Shuri, a beautiful woman in her late 20s who looked no different from Akeno when she grew up. "The sky is so beautiful today, Okawa-chan," the little girl exclaimed excitedly when she saw a bird flew by. "It's because today is your birthday, Akeno," Shuri said while tying her daughter's hair into a ponytail with a black ribbon. Just then, however, the older woman sensed a group of 3 people entering the shrine, and one of them was a boy of Akeno's age, suddenly having the urge to tease her innocent daughter. A mischievous smile appeared on Shuri's face and she covered Akeno's eyes with her hands. "They say every wish you make during your birthday will become true. Why don't you wish to meet your destined one, Akeno?" "I want to meet my future son-in-law," the older woman said with a slight hint of mischievousness, but it went unnoticed by her daughter, who was pouting cutely. "If any wish is possible, then I want to be with you and Dad forever, Okawa-chan." "No. Wish for your boyfriend to appear before you now. Akeno. I want to meet my future son-in-law sooner so I can dote on him too," Shuri said as she looked up to see a family of 3 looking at her confusedly. The father was a handsome man with spiky blonde hair and azure eyes, while the mother was a beautiful, slender woman with lustrous red hair and blue eyes. A glint appeared in Shuri's eyes when her eyes landed on the boy standing between them, looking exactly like his father with spiky blonde hair and azure eyes, but carried his mother's pretty face instead. "Era. A handsome young man who would no doubt break many hearts in the future," thought Shuri. "Then I wish for my hubby to appear before me," the young girl, with no other choice left, wished with a pout on her face. Her voice was a little low though, and so, only Shuri could hear it. With a gentle on her face, the older woman then gestured for young Naruto to come over, who did after asking for his parents' permission. Then with a mysterious smile on her face, Shuri uncovered Akeno's eyes and looked at the young couple with a mischievous expression. Realizing her intention, the red-hair woman also dragged her husband to a side and watched the pair with a smile on their face. Feeling her eyes no longer covered, little Akeno opened her eyes, expecting nothing only to widen her violet eyes the moment she saw a boy with blonde hair and azure eyes standing in front of her. "Are you really my future hubby?" For a moment, the young girl could only stare at the boy, dumbfounded and amazed by what had just happened, but then she asked with a small, adorable blush on her face. "What is a hubby?" Young Naruto asked back with a confused look and a cute pout on his innocent face. Silence reigned for a moment before little Akeno broke out chuckling. "I am Himejima Akeno. What is your name, hubby?" Then with a bright smile, she asked. "The name is Uzumaki Naruto. Nice to meet you, Akeno-chan." Young Naruto answered with a bright smile while pointing at himself with his thumb. While their first meeting was quite hilarious, Akeno and Naruto became great friends after that. Various things happened, and before the black-hair Miko knew it, she had somehow developed a crush on Naruto. Shaking her head at the fond memory, Akeno was about to head to another place when Ryo's familiar voice rang in her head. "Akeno, we have found Naruto." The black-hair Miko stopped dead in her track before her mind successfully processed the information and her eyes widened in joy. Not even doubting Rias, Akeno rushed toward the nearest valley and disappeared into a teleportation circle. When she appeared at the clubroom for the first time in a while, instead of Uzumaki Naruto, what greeted Akeno was her king, standing inside a teleportation circle, looking at Rias with eyes full of hope. The black-hair Miko calmly and slowly walked up to her, her heart beat wildly in her chest. "Trust me," the redhead muttered with a gentle smile on her face before the two disappeared in a shower of red light. When they appeared through the other end of the teleportation circle, it's inside of the student council office, and the person they saw talking to Sona was Sekvara Agaras. While Uzumaki Naruto and Narberal Gamma were having a mock battle to help the blonde rook adapt to his new power, Sekvara Agaras, their king, was having a conversation with Sona Citri. Sitting opposite the young blonde was a pretty girl with her black hair cut short, wearing a pair of glasses over her violet eyes. "It's nice to see you again, Sona. How have you been?" Sekvara asked. Though there was no change in her facial expression, her voice was soft and caring. Rias Gremory, Sona Citri, Cyroorg Biel and Sekvara Agaras were young devils of the same generation who were called the Rookies for, aside from being rivals, they were all friends with each other, especially Rias, Sona, and Sekvara. "I have been fine. Unlike you, I have quite a bit of free time," the black-hair girl said while accepting a cup of tea offered by her queen, Tsubaki Shinra. While Sona herself was also the heiress to the Citri clan, her parents were quite easy on her, Unlike Sikvera, who had to run a part of the territory by herself, seeing a slight frown appeared on her friend's face, Sona slightly smiled before asking again. I know that you have little free time, so why come here? Hearing the question, the young blonde pushed her glasses up before summoning a stack of documents and handed it over to Sona. While I would like to have a small talk with you in Rias, I am here because of business, Sikvera said and took a sip of coffee while waiting for the black hair girl to finish reading the documents. Withdrawal letter. Uzumaki Naruto. Sona's eyes widened after skimming through the first few lines. Was this not the name of the man she and Rias had been finding for the past 4 days? What had happened? Why was Sikvera handing in his withdrawal letter? Seeing Sona's strange reaction, Sikvera raised an eyebrow and asked. What's wrong? Looking at the beautiful blonde with a complicated expression on her face, Sona sighed tiredly before a small, light blue magic circle bearing the symbol of Citri appeared in front of her. We have found Uzumaki Naruto, Rias, the black hair girl said before she turned to Sikvera with a serious expression. I and Rias have been looking for him for the past 4 days, but no matter how hard we tried, we couldn't find him, but now, you suddenly appear, handing in his withdrawal letter. I am not demanding but, can you tell me what has happened to him, Sikvera? Asked Sona, with her intelligent and fast thinking. The Citri heiress had already concluded what situation Uzumaki Naruto had gotten himself in, but still, she wanted to hear from Sikvera. Just as the blonde was about to answer, red magic circle bearing the symbol of Gremory appeared and out of it came 2 women. One had beautiful red hair flowing down her back while the other had lustrous black hair tied into a high ponytail. With just a glance, Sikvera had immediately recognized them as Rias Gremory and her queen Himejima Akeno. Akeno? Could she be that Akeno? Pushing her glasses up, Sikvera suddenly remembered the wish Naruto had made when they first met. He had wished to be together with someone named Akeno forever. At that time, the blonde heiress hadn't thought much about it, but now that she had met Himejima Akeno, Sikvera couldn't help connecting the two. Sikvera Agaras? Rias exclaimed while gazing at the blonde heiress with a surprised expression. Nodding toward the redhead in acknowledgement, Sikvera turned her gaze towards Akeno. Though she and Rias were close, it didn't mean she had to know each other's friends too. Sikvera only knew Rias had a queen named Akeno and she was about the same age as her. To her, Akeno was a stranger whose face she didn't even remember. That's why the blonde heiress didn't connect the Akeno Naruto mentioned and Rias queen that night. Toward Rias' arrival, Sikvera gave a nod as a sign of saying hello, but toward Akeno's arrival, the blonde heiress did no such thing as she deemed it was unnecessary to be courteous to someone beneath her. Though Sikvera's face was as cold and expressionless as ever, the blonde heiress was looking down on Akeno as she didn't give the black hair queen any more attention other than a gaze when she first arrived. Insightful people like Sona could see it, but she said nothing. Akeno was Rias' queen, not her, and Sikvera looking down on a low-class devil was understandable. Sikvera was the eldest daughter of Agara's clan, a nobly pure blood devil, one of the rookies 4 and heiress of the ranked 2nd family in the underworld. Standing at such height, not many could be considered her equal, not even Cyroorg who was the strongest in their generation or Sona and Rias. Cyroorg couldn't because he didn't inherit the Bale's power of destruction, Sona and Rias couldn't because their family were ranked lower the Agaras. As such, Sikvera was an extremely prideful person. She was a noble who had been standing at the top of the pyramid system of the underworld since birth. As such, a low-class devil of another peerage was nothing in her eyes, even if the owner of that peerage was her friend, unless they were strong enough to earn her respect, or enter her little circle of friends. Sikvera would forever be an untouchable ice queen to them. You are finding Uzumaki Naruto? The blonde heiress asked while calmly sipping her coffee, unconcerned by Rias and Akeno's panicked expression. Even an idiot would have realized that Naruto's disappearance must be related to Sikvera somehow with her sudden appearance. The worst-case scenario would be Naruto had become a devil of Sikvera's peerage. He is Akeno's boyfriend. Rias thought a bit and said, holding her queen's hand tightly to keep her from speaking. Placing her cup of coffee down, Sikvera crossed her arms under her chest, sitting crossed legs on her chair while staring at the black liquor like it was the most interesting thing in the world. When I first met Uzumaki Naruto, he wished he could be together forever with a girl named Akeno. The light coming through the windows reflected on Sikvera's glass, hiding her ruby red eyes from view as she caught Rias' queen flinching with a glance. Sikvera didn't know why, but she felt an unknown hatred toward the black hair queen burning within her after catching her reaction. He wished that with a saddened expression. I don't think someone who has their love answered would do that. I gave him a leaflet and returned to the underworld after that. Later that night, he summoned me, near death with a mid-class stray devil nearby. He is my rook now. The room fell silent after Sikvera finished her story. Sona was closing her eyes like she was meditating. She didn't want to concern herself with a complicated situation. Rias looked like she was contemplating something while Akeno had a saddened expression on her face. Sikvera had made herself clear with that last sentence. Naruto had become her subject, no longer the ordinary human teen they knew. They needed to get her permission first before getting to Naruto.
At least, he is safe, Rias thought to herself and glanced at Akeno, seeing the black hair queen's relieved sigh. Naruto had become a devil, contrary to Akeno's wish, but becoming a devil is better than dying.
Sik-chan, can I? No, even if you offered your Sekiryute, my answer would still be no. I see. Rias Gremory let out a disappointed sigh before releasing Akeno's hand. She had done all she could. Even if Sikvera wanted to trade Naruto for Issei, Rias wouldn't agree. She might want Akeno to be happy with Naruto in the peerage, but comparing to the Sekiryute with unlimited potential, the blonde was nothing. Thank you very much, Agura-sama. If Naruto died, I wouldn't know what to do. Akeno stepped up and said sincerely with a deep bow toward Sikvera, not paying Akeno any attention. The blonde heiress calmly looked at Sona like she was expecting something. I will handle Naruto's withdrawal, the Sea-Tree heiress calmly said. Thank you. Sikvera stood up. A gray magic circle with the symbol of Agura's appeared under her foot. Come to my palace when you have the time, Rias. I have something for you. The blonde heiress said with a slight smile before disappearing in a flash of white light. Seeing her smile, Rias also smiled and nodded. Me? A welcoming party for me? Naruto with his upper body naked and full of sweats after finishing his training said, surprised. Yes. Young Lady Sikvera is one of the most famous individuals in the underworld. Her every action is watched and judged by all of the underworld. A welcoming party is a must-have ceremony to introduce a new peerage member of a renowned noble to all of the underworld. If young lady didn't do that, she would be ridiculed. Standing before Naruto was Narberal Gamma in her casual-made outfit. Don't overestimate yourself. However, your welcoming party is online a mean for other nobles to attack or ally with the young lady. In other words, it's a political battlefield. You will also be watched and judged as the young lady's new rook, so better behave yourself. Oh, I see. Catching a flash of slight disappointment on Naruto's face, Narberal approached the blonde and handed him a towel. Don't get the wrong idea. It's not like she was doing it just because of necessity. No, we of the Agura's family truly welcome you, she said with a soft smile on her face while looking straight into Naruto's wide-open eyes. Maybe his eyes were playing tricks, but Naruto swore he could see light coming from behind Narberal's slender form. Angel, the stupefied blonde thought and blushed. Boom boom, the unique sound of something flying at supersonic speed could be heard whenever the large man standing in the middle of the stadium released his punch. He had hair as black as the night and eyes the beautiful color of violet, standing at 194 centimeters tall and having a muscular body that would make men and women drool. Cyraorg Biel, the strongest devil of his generation, was training. Something he did every single day, without missing, without slacking. So what if he was hailed as the strongest of his generation? In front of a demon king, Cyraorg would die in a single hit. So what if he was already the successor of the prestigious Biel clan? Cyraorg still clearly remembered the day he and his mother were kicked out because he didn't possess the power of destruction. Cyraorg himself knew he was talentless. The position he had today was the sweet fruit earned through numerous hardships he had to endure in the past. He had to push himself harder. He had to break through his limit if he didn't want to lose everything. That's why Cyraorg trained. Boom. Asterisk, his step destroyed the ground, creating a small crater, and his punch generated shockwaves so strong that the dummy 10 meters away was blown apart. But instead of being satisfied, Cyraorg's expression was solemn. There was even a hint of irritation and disappointment in his fiery eyes. 1 whole year, I haven't made a single advancement. Cyraorg let out a sigh and retracted his punch. He realized that he was gradually reaching his limit. That realization made Cyraorg feel bitter, but there was little he could do. He could only train harder and harder, hoping that he would make a breakthrough one day. Cyraorg-sama, there is an invitation from the Agura's clan. A beautiful young woman with blonde hair tied into a wavy ponytail said respectfully and handed him a luxuriously decorated letter. Wearing a dark blue costume that was open in the chest area revealing her large breasts, cleavage, and part of her stomach, she was Kusha Abaddon, Cyraorg's queen. That girl, Sikvera, got a rook. The letter was long due to all sorts of formality, so Cyraorg summarized it in one sentence. So it's an invitation to a ball. I don't want to go. Every ball is a political battlefield. Knowing that Sly Fox, she might be up to something, it's better using that time to train. Cyraorg said tired voice and handed the letter back to his queen. But aren't you curious about her new rook? Agura-sama's standard is very high, but I heard that her new rook is a reincarnated human. Kusha said and handed over a towel she got from somewhere to Cyroorg, who was covered in sweats. Maybe he has a sacred gear. Then isn't it all the more reason for you to go and find it out? Even if it's not for our future battle against them, I think you should go and strengthen your relationship with Agara-sama. You were one of the rookies for too. Cyroorg-sama, hearing Kusha's convincing word, the Bael heir could only nod his head. A little change in pace doesn't sound too bad, I guess. Warning. Arrow scene smack smack. Ah. A young woman moaned softly amidst the smacking sound of meat colliding meat. Lying on a white king-size bed in a dimly lit room was a young woman around her early 20s. She had long green-tinted light blonde hair that reached her slim waist and a pair of ruby-red eyes that were rolled back due to the ultimate pleasure she was feeling. Without a single piece of cloth on her sexy, matured body. The young woman laid on her side, her back against the chest of her master, her left leg raised high, being supported by his left arm and her big breast fondled by his right hand. Sikvera. No. The Sikvera look-alike woman let out a moan filled with pleasure when she felt her master nibbled on her ear and her pink nipple being pinched between his fingers, her back arched and a geyser of clear liquid shot out of her cleanly shaven pussy accompanied by her high-pitched scream of pleasure. She panted roughly, clearly exhausted after the orgasm, but the same couldn't be said about her master. Seek. 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 Shouting out the name of his target of affection and lust, the man with curly blonde hair and green eyes had a crazed look on his face as he licked the woman's white neck. He stopped the thrusting for a moment and changed their positions so that the woman would be on her fore with him behind. Ah, so good, master. So goooodddd. The man pulled her arms strongly while thrusting his hip forward, causing the woman to scream in pleasure. Her perky and firm big breasts jiggled with every thrust, creating an arousing sight. Tell me, Seek, who is your master? The blonde man asked while grasping her big breasts strongly as if wanting to crush them. Pain could be seen on the woman's face as she panted roughly. It's unknown whether that pain was from her breasts being grasped too strongly or the fact that her master was treating her as someone's substitute. It's Galgandar Andromalia-sama. The Sikvera look-alike woman replied weakly before letting out a scream of pleasure. She could feel her master's essence flowing into her womb. The sensation caused her back to arc and another geyser of clear liquid shot out of her pussy which was overflowed with thick, white liquid. Letting the Sikvera look-alike woman fall face first into bed.
Fainted. Galgandar Andromalius let out a satisfied sigh before a cruel smile emerged on his face, flipping the Sikvera look-alike woman over with a kick. The Andromalius heir climbed on top of her body, licking his way up from her crotch, sitting on top of her head. Galgandar strongly grasped her head with both hands before shoving his hard dick all the way down her throat. The Sikvera look-alike woman's body convulsed and she gagged, her eyes rolled to the back of her head.
Looking at the helpless Sikvera look-alike woman, the cruel smile on Galgandar became crazed as he imagined doing the same to the real Sikvera. Soon, Seek, with her in my peerage, I will completely destroy you in a rating game and make you submit to me. In a dimly lit room filled with the smell of sex, a opened luxuriously decorated letter lied on a table. It's an invitation to a ball that would be held at Agares Sky Garden next week. Ha! With a mighty shout, Akeno swung her arms, which were crackling with golden lightning, down. A vicious expression emerged on her face as the Priestess of Thunder summoned bolts of golden lightning down from the night sky to purge her target. Incomprehensible screams of agony filled the air along with the smell of burned meat as the mid-ranked stray devil was roasted. Gaw! What the hell are wrong with you? You damn mad woman. The stray devil, a large man with tentacles for arms, angrily shouted and swung his arms forward. Dozens of red tentacles shot out, trying to catch the flying Priestess of Thunder. With graceful movement like she was dancing in the sky, Akeno flexibly dodged the attack and casted a protective spell on herself. Shut up. You piece of garbage. Stray devils like you should disappear from this world. With a thin layer of energy surrounding her body, Akeno approached the stray with her fastest speed, surprised by her action unbefitting a magic caster. The stray was dumbfounded before finding a fist imbued in lightning flying toward his head. A loud bang was heard as a large thunderbolt struck the stray devil the moment Akeno's fist connected. The queen piece is an all-rounder piece. Akeno prefers using her thunder magic as a means to attack. But that doesn't mean she is weak in close combat, maybe weaker than Kaneko and slower than Kiba. But that's because Akeno's strong point lies in her magic. Standing on the sideline, Rias proudly said, just like what she had shown to Issei when he first became a devil. Rias had led her peerage out for a hunt to introduce the perks of being a devil to Asia, her new bishop who possessed twilight healing. But unlike the previous time when everyone played a part in subjugating Visor, Akeno volunteered to beat the stray all on her own this time. Akeno-san, Scary, standing next to Rias, a short girl with shoulder-length white hair and hazel eyes said. Her face was as expressionless as ever, but she was standing a step behind the redhead. She was Teju Kaneko, Rias Rook, and a first-year student of Kuo Academy. Did something happen, bucko? Akeno-san is kinda angry, Kiba asked. Though his face was still smiling handsomely, his unconscious stuttering betrayed his nervousness. Kiba had been active in Rias peerage for years now, and in his opinion, Akeno was a kind and caring Oni-san. She might act a bit perverted at times, but that was only to make the mood. Never had Kiba seen her so angry before, and to be honest, it made him kinda nervous. Uzumaki Naruto has become a devil. A stray attacked him and Sekivara revived him after that. Eh? Uzumaki Naruto? Did you mean that Uzumaki Naruto, who studied the same school as us, bucko? Hyodo Issei, a young teen with brown hair and green eyes, asked loudly in surprise. The youth admitted that he didn't know just everyone who attended the same school as him, but Uzumaki Naruto was a very special existence in Issei's heart. Good looking, good attitude, good score, popular with women and a master martial artist. Issei envied Naruto, but at the same time, he also admired the blonde from the bottom of his heart. Like, when someone was only a bit better than you would envy him, thinking that with a bit of luck and effort, you could surpass him, but when someone was so much better than you that you had no hope in surpassing him, that envious would turn into admiration instead, just human nature. Seeing Rias nodded, the youth screamed out in frustration and collapsed. Why? Just when I thought I had finally surpassed him. Why? Ignoring her pawn, Rias shook her head and glanced at Akeno. The black hair queen was still torturing the stray. She wasn't using strong attacks that would kill him, but weak attacks that would inflict pain and suffering on the target. Poor Akeno, she loves Naruto so much she even sacrifices her happiness for him to have a normal life. But that's ruined now. She must be frustrated, Rias said in a saddened voice inside. If only she had taken the risk and turned Naruto into a devil without asking for Akeno's consent. Back in the student council office, Akeno's smile didn't fade from her face, but who knew how pained she was on the inside, because of the decision she thought was the best for them. Things turned out like this. About that, I think you were wrong, bucko, in my opinion. Akeno-senpai deserves this. Hyodo Issei, the pervert that was always goofy, suddenly said something ridiculous. A loud bang was heard and a thunderbolt bigger than ever struck the stray devil. Gracefully and calmly, the priestess of thunder returned to the group, her Miko outfit covered in blood. Torturing the stray devil had been a good way for Akeno to vent her frustration, but it seemed that Issei's words had made her mood turn sour again. There was even a dangerous glint in her eyes when looking at the pawn. What are you saying, Issei-san? Quickly apologized to Akeno-san and Bucko-san. Asia Argento, the cute blonde girl standing next to Issei, quickly said, but the youth shook his head and looked straight into Akeno's eyes with a serious expression. Akeno-senpai, you said you sacrificed your happiness so that Naruto-senpai could have a normal, ordinary life without being involved with the supernatural world, is that right? The black hair queen was silent, but she nodded. When you decided that, did you ever consider Naruto-senpai's feeling? Akeno kept her silence, but she didn't nod or shake her head. Seeing her reaction, Issei took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and placed a fist over his heart. I don't know about Naruto-senpai, but I would be devastated if the same happened to me. Akeno-senpai, what is the relationship between races when it comes to love? For me, I think as long as the parties involved truly love each other, then everything will turn out fine. Oblivious to the amazed stares he was getting from his colleagues, Issei took a deep breath and looked at the starry night sky above with a sincere smile on his face. If I had a shorter life than my lover, then I would cherish her more because of the short amount of time I had. I would love her and be happy with her, so that I could close my eyes peacefully and send her away faithfully, with no regrets when the time came. Issei finished, his figure standing there in the night, under the bright moon and the starry sky was so beautiful that it could make an award-winning picture. Issei-san, so cool. Asia Argento, the blonde nun said as she gazed at the brown-haired youth with mesmerized eyes. One could even see stars in her eyes as if she was looking at her most admired idol. I never knew my pawn has such a cool side too, Rias exclaimed with wide eyes, surprised and amazed at the short, but meaningful speech. Her eyes when looking at Issei showed a bit more warmth. Suddenly, his perverted tendencies became like a child's mischievousness to her. Rias didn't know yet, but she was beginning to see Issei as a little brother she never had. Be beside, who could ignore such a beautiful, voluptuous woman like Akeno-senpai? Maybe because the praise was too much, Issei's face turned red, and the youth just blurted out his thought without thinking while glancing at Akeno's sexy Miko outfit with a lecherous expression. The surrounding turned silent as everyone looked on with deadpan expressions. Pervert, Kaneko muttered under her breath and looked away. Shaking her head exasperatedly, Rias ignored Issei's remark that just completely broke his cool image earlier and grasped Akeno's hand. The black hair queen was still silent, her violet eyes directed at the ground like she was contemplating something. Rias lightly squeezed her hand. Sikvera is going to hold a ball to introduce her new rook. You wanna come? The redhead asked. Everyone kept their mouths shut and waited for Akeno's answer with bated breath. Then, after almost a full minute, a smile appeared on Rias's face when she felt Akeno's hand tighten around her. Looking up at the face of her best friend, the redhead's smile widened when she saw Akeno's determined violet eyes. We got your back, Akeno, Underworld, Agara's mansion. Do you know how to increase your power as a devil? Sikvera asked after Naruto entered the office, sitting behind her desk. The Agara's heiress was doing her paperwork with Narberal Gamma standing ready behind her. Devils become stronger as they age, so the longer they live, the stronger they become, but the natural increase in power isn't the main way for devils to become stronger. The most effective way is absorbing power from someone, Naruto said calmly as he stopped before Sikvera's desk. The blonde was wearing dark gray jeans that had tears on his knees and thighs for easier movement, a black t-shirt that had the Agara's symbol on it, and a black-orange hoodie, for footwear. Naruto chose a pair of black combat boots and for accessory, the blonde had a silver necklace around his neck with the Agara's magic circle hanging on it. Overall, Naruto looked combat-readied, and he really was. His clothing might look ordinary but was made with the same material used to make Narberal's outfit, and by the best tailor too. The material was called Demon Spider's silk. Not tougher than metal, but it was stronger than leather and very flexible. His necklace, on the other hand, was the most extraordinary thing he had on his body. It was something personally crafted by the best craftsman in the underworld as requested by Sikvera Agaras. The heiress said it was something that every member of her peerage had. According to Sikvera, she actually requested a set consisted of a necklace, a ring and a bracelet, each with a different effect on the wearer. But it had only been a week since Naruto joined, so only the necklace had been finished. It came with various magic necessary for daily life like cleanse, telepathy, body temperature conditioning embedded in it. Aside from having the best equipment available for a low-class devil, Naruto had also become stronger by himself. His body was still lean, but under his cloth were rock-hard muscles that packed more than just a punch. As advised by both Narberal and Sikvera, the blonde had been focused on training his speed and endurance by running like a madman around the Agara's mansion with weight, lots of weight. Naruto also tried to learn magic, and what caught his fancy the most was enhance. The blonde thought instead of launching a fireball that did the same damage as his punch after slowly building up his magic power for months, why not just upgrade what he already had? Toward his thought, both Sikvera and Narberal nodded their head in approval. They even gave him a book about the origin of enhanced magic and its variations. In his last spar against Narberal, who was comparable to a high-class devil, Naruto had even managed to hit her once even though the maid had gone all out. In the past, devils wage war with other races, including human, to absorb their power. But after the 1,000 Years' War ended with a truce between all races, the old devils turned their fangs to the weaker member of their own species, adopting cannibalism to enhance their power. This has later led to the Devil Civil War between the new Satan faction devils and the old Satan faction devils. The new Satan faction devils won and changed the method to doing contracts in exchange for a portion of the contractor's power. Seeing that Sikvera was still silent, Naruto spilled out a summary of what he had learned about the devil. Only then did he see the heiress nod, letting out a sigh of relief. The blonde was proud of himself for meeting his king's expectation. Right, usually, new devils have to hand out flyers to find their own contracts first. But your situation is different. You have me, a ruler, as your king, Sikvera said calmly and looked into Naruto's eyes. Knowing that she was expecting an answer, the blonde thought carefully her words. His king was Sikvera Agaras, a high-class devil with a sizable territory in the underworld. But what's the difference? She was someone who was always busy with paperwork. Her peerage was always away for job, and Naruto's eyes widened when realizations hit him. You receive contracts from the devils living in your land. That's why we don't have to find our own contracts and can receive it from you instead, right? The blonde answered with a smile on his face. That's right, but there aren't only devils living on my land, like this contract you are about to do. Your client is a yokai. Now go. You have 3 days to finish this. Narberal Gamma will accompany you, Sikvera said and handed an old contract to Naruto. It wasn't a contract that was forgotten for a long time, but a contract that was written on a worn-out, old paper. Exterminate the monster around Hilma Yukai village and investigate the cause behind the disease in it. The blonde read out the content written on the contract and furrowed his brows, a solemn expression on his face. Naruto nodded and held the contract tightly in his hand. He glanced at Narbarel. Wait for me at the mansion gate, the maid said, and with that, Naruto left the office, still looking straight ahead. Narbarel asked a question that had been plaguing her mind since her king handed the contract over to Naruto. Why give him an A-rank contract for high-class devil, young lady? I may accompany him on this, but I can't guarantee his safety if the mission turned out to be harder than expected. Naruto needs a major crisis to make a breakthrough. Narbarel, can't you feel it? That stealthily hidden energy inside him, Sikvera said calmly, but when she saw the maid still had a worried look on her face, she lightly laughed. Just 1 week and he has already managed to steal the heart of my bishop. Maybe I should prepare another bishop just in case. What are you talking about, young lady? Naruto is only my disciple. I will never leave your side, Narbarel loudly exclaimed with a red face like she had been wronged. It's a joke, Nabe, no need to worry though, Bafil is also heading there, Sikvera said lightly, calling out Narbarel's nickname to calm her down. Taking in a deep breath, Narbarel regained her usual cold and calm facade as if her stuttering earlier was a lie. I see, then I will take my leave, young lady. Narbarel bowed and walked out of the office, leaving Sikvera who was still busy with paperwork alone. Hilma Yukai Village was a village within Sikvera's territory. It took Narbarel and Naruto only 30 minutes to reach there with the help of various teleportation stations built across the territory. Standing at the village's entrance, Naruto tightened his fists as he looked at the deserted village. This is like a dead village, the blonde whispered. The disease must have been the cause. I can sense many people inside, Narbarel said and entered the village. As she was going out for a mission, Narbarel wasn't wearing her battle-maid outfit, but a plain white shirt, plain black pants, and a plain brown cloak. She looked just like any adventurer out there, but her outfit, like his own, was made from the demon spider's silk. Let's go meet the village chief then, because the villagers were staying inside. The road was wide open for Naruto and Narbarel. It didn't take them long to reach the village chief's house. Welcome to Hilma Village, nobles of Agaras, a child with straight black hair wearing a red and white kimono solemnly said and bowed. On top of her head was a pair of black fox ears and behind her back was big, bushy tail which looked soft to the touch. I am Nagato Hilma, daughter of the former village chief, the girl said, her face expressing little to no emotion even though she was still a young girl. Thanks for watching.